Welcome. I'm WTOP Capitol Hill correspondent Mitchell Miller. Thanks for joining us. My guest today is Kurt Kovarik, the Vice President of Federal Affairs for Clean Fuels Alliance America. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be with you.
All right. Well, a lot of big things are happening in energy innovation right now. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of some of the legislation that's before Congress, I wanted to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about the Alliance and what some of your goals are.
Sure. Clean Fuels Alliance America is a national trade association that represents biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel producers and our feedstock providers. We've got about 135 members across the country producing the fuel and also providing the various feedstocks that we use to produce the fuel. The industry was kind of born out of the soybean industry. For those who don't know, a soybean farmer throughout the Midwest grows soybeans primarily for the protein, for animal and food consumption. 20% of that bean is oil. The demand is around the meal, is what we call it, the meal, the protein meal. And so they needed to find a home for that surplus soybean oil. So that's where the industry was born 30 years ago. The industry itself has innovated significantly over those 30 years. We've diversified our feedstock that we use. We use both soybean and canola oil, but then also animal fats, distillers corn oil from the ethanol process, and used cooking oil. So a lot of folks in urban areas might wonder, why do I care about biodiesel or biomass-based diesel? Because a lot of the food that you consume that's fried in a restaurant, that restaurant grease ends up being converted into a low-carbon, clean-burning petroleum alternative fuel.
And like a lot of innovative areas, there was a little gradual start, but it really has picked up. As you mentioned, it goes back 30 years or so, but in recent years and in the past decade, it seems to have really grown.
That's right. A lot of foresight in Congress, particularly in the mid-2000s. In 2005, we had both a production tax, a blender's tax credit created for the fuel, as well as the renewable fuel standard, which essentially forced the petroleum industry to diversify the fuel that they made available to customers. So those two policies, in 2005, we produced about 100 million gallons. Today, we're over 5 billion gallons.
Wow.
And much of that growth has really been in the last 2 to 3 years as the policies have signaled support for the industry and the demand for the fuel has increased. And right now, we're just below 10% of the total diesel pool is biomass-based diesel, which is really significant.
Yeah, and as we look at the whole energy security realm, of course, there's a lot of talk about the fact that the U.S. has really boosted its energy production in a variety of ways. But as I've been speaking with lawmakers as well about this, there seems to be a view that it doesn't all necessarily have to be either or in connection with fossil fuels versus the type of cleaner fuels that you're talking about.
That's right. If you look at biomass-based diesel, right, we're not dependent upon foreign countries for our feedstock. We're not importing any of the feedstock that's necessary to produce the fuel. We're not dependent upon Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or what have you for the fuel. It's produced here at home. It's adding value to the farmer's bottom line. It's adding value to a restaurant entrepreneur in adding value to that used cooking oil, and it's cleaning the air. So, over the last couple of years, there's been a strong drive towards electrification, EVs, EV mandates, that sort of thing to decarbonize. What we've conveyed in that environment is there's a lot of sectors that are unable to be electrified. Can't imagine an airplane running on batteries or cargo vessels or locomotive transportation, for example. Home heat in New England is being utilizing biomass-based diesel to displace dirtier home heating oil. So all of those sectors in the transportation area that are unable to decarbonize any other way, our fuel is a drop-in fuel. We're a distillate replacement. Many of our members are the Class 1 railroads. Airlines are very interested in our product. Cargo vessels are now seeking our product to displace bunker fuel, which is what they use to haul goods across the globe and the oceans. So there's a place for all of them. No one energy source, in our view, is going to be the silver bullet and the solution. So we certainly take an all of the above approach. We're not opposed to efforts to electrify, but we recognize that there's a lot of opportunities. We're going to need all fuels available, and the more that we can produce here at home that benefit the ag economy and clean the air, we view that as a win-win.
And of course, there's a lot going on Capitol Hill in connection with budget reconciliation and a variety of issues. And I wanted to get a little into that. One of the hugest issues, of course, is for the EPA and setting the renewable fuel standard for the coming year. What are some of the things that you're looking at in connection to that, with that, and what would the Alliance like to see?
Sure. Well, President Trump has always been a strong advocate of America's farmers and biofuels, and this was the case in his first term. There were a lot of conversations in the Oval Office between refiners and farmers over the importance of biofuels. He's maintained that commitment, so we expect that he will, going forward, to maintain that commitment. Unfortunately, the EPA, this EPA has inherited already a project that's overdue, and that is setting volumes for our industry, which are the mandates under the Renewable Fuel Standard for 2026 and beyond. By statute, that should have been done last fall, by November 1st. The Biden administration chose to punt on that requirement to this administration. The previous administration also set a 3-year rule for 2023, 2024, and 2025, significantly below what our industry is producing. So we right now, our industry is suffering some tough times because of the uncertainty around what those volume mandates are going to be. So our message to this administration is utilize the RFS, the Renewable Fuel Standard, to hit the accelerator for domestic energy production. The president talks about domestic energy dominance. Here's an opportunity. With robust volumes at 5.25 billion gallons is what we're asking EPA for. We'll turn plants back on. We'll demand more feedstock. We'll support the improved, the expanded crush of soybeans in the United States. You know, as you think about all of the uncertainty that's in the economy right now, because of tariffs and the threat of tariffs and reciprocal tariffs and whether those markets are going to be available. Farmers are incredibly dependent upon foreign markets for their product. The president has said to them, hey, let's add value to your product and use it here at home. That's exactly what the biomass-based diesel industry does and what we want to do more of. So our message is 5.25 billion gallons for 2026 will support the farmers, will support the producers, and get the fuel to consumers.
Yeah, there has to be huge interest in this from a farming community related to all the things that, as you mentioned, are taking place right now.
Absolutely. One of our biggest champions is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I mean, they recognize that farmers need markets for their product. They need value for their commodity, and biofuels is a strong avenue to create that value, particularly if you have uncertainty with accessing China's market or others. This is a homegrown opportunity to support that investment, to support the farmer, and return money to the farmer.
And another big issue, as you well know, is extending the clean fuel production credit. I wonder if you could tell us about what your goals are there and what that's about.
So the Inflation Reduction Act passed by Democrats in the reconciliation in 2022 kind of rewrote a lot of clean energy tax policies. One of them, as you mentioned, is the clean fuel production credit, also called 45Z. It was Senator Wyden's, the then chairman of the Finance Committee's vision to create tax policy that was technology neutral but rewarded based on carbon intensity. So on a sliding scale, determine the carbon intensity of your fuel, and the credit value mirrored the carbon benefits that you were delivering. Our goal is to both extend that tax credit and also to make it work better for the farmer. There's a little bit of political science at play in the modeling, particularly around what we call indirect land use impacts that we think aren't necessarily based on sound science and reasonable to punish a U.S. farmer for the theoretical view that the behavior of a U.S. farmer impacts what a Brazilian farmer does, for example. So there are some technical improvements that we think that could be made to make this work better for American producers and American farmers to ensure the full utilization of that credit. Congress is moving quickly on this. There's a lot of priorities. First off, our hope is to safeguard and maintain what we have, and then improve it and extend it if we can.
And it does seem that it is kind of on a front burner for a lot of lawmakers because of the issues that you just mentioned. So I would assume that you're pretty encouraged by that.
We are. There are very few other provisions under the IRA that have as much bipartisan support as does the clean fuel production credit. There are a handful, there were probably 15 or 20 different clean energy tax provisions passed or created under the Inflation Reduction Act. I would imagine the clean fuel production credit is probably in the top 5 in terms of bipartisan support, and really beyond just members saying they support it. I mean, sticking their necks out. If you remember a couple years ago when they were raising the debt ceiling, and a lot of the provisions under the Clean Air Act or the Inflation Reduction Act were on the chopping block, there were 6 or 8 House Republicans in the House of Representatives who defended this credit and said, this is not one that can be included in terms of offsets. So hopefully we can maintain that level of support. There are going to be a lot of moving pieces as this bill comes together. It's a significant piece of legislation that they're going to have to tackle. We're just hopeful at the end of the day that we survive.
All right, and lastly, we've talked about the growth over the last few decades. Just finally, your view about what the outlook is for your industry moving forward.
Yeah, so I would look at it this way. We play a key role in federal policy, in state policy, and also in corporate boardrooms and international policy. Whether or not the desire is there currently to pursue climate policies or carbon reduction emissions, that's one thing. But the fact of the matter is there are a dozen states that are continuing to pursue carbon reductions. International pressure to do the same, whether that's in aviation or marine. So our vision is this. We're going to make sure that we make the investments in production, in feedstock availability, and we're going to serve the markets where people are demanding our product. And our product has never been under demand more than it is now, whether that's in rail, heavy-duty trucking, aviation, and marine and home heat. We've got great opportunities to decarbonize, to add value to a U.S. energy product and displace petroleum at the same time. In my mind, that's what domestic energy dominance means.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Well said. I'd like to thank today's guest, Kurt Kovarik, the Vice President of Federal Affairs for Clean Fuels Alliance America. I'm WTOP Capitol Hill correspondent Mitchell Miller. For more on this discussion, visit WTOP.com and search Energy Innovation Series.